Pardon me while I scarf down a little bit of halibut. I'm going to do some Orthodox reading for us again. One second while I bring it up. So we're going to read about Halloween. Let me get a sip here. I quickly cooked up a piece of halibut that I caught this summer. And I've been using this breading called Crispy Fry that's only 99 cents for a packet. It's Japanese. Boy, it's really delicious. I don't put anything on the fish. I just defrost it, slice it thin. Dump a bag of that Crispy Fry into a Ziploc bag and shake it up and fry it. And veggie oil. That's delicious. I've been kind of doing a lot more vegetarian diet since I've been Orthodox. So I'll show you one of the things I've been eating a lot. Just because we Orthodox are always trying to find different food that we can eat that's okay with our fasts. So I don't get any kickbacks from these people, of course, but these MTR minute meals, they don't have any preservatives and stuff in them. This one's vegetable curry. This one's dal makhani, black lentil curry with something, curry de lenteles. But really delicious. They're less than $3 a pack. So that's one of the things that I've been doing for lunch quite a lot. And then there's another brand that I've been getting that's in a pouch. It's kind of like that, still in an MRE style pouch. But I've noticed how this food, this Indian style vegetarian meals, don't have any nitrates in them. There's no preservatives. It's just good stuff like yogurt and lentils and cream and butter. Today I had one with fenugreek in it, fenugreek leaves, potatoes, chili powders, coriander, turmeric. They're really filling and good. So if you're looking for something cheap for lunch, because I know prices are out of hand on everything, that's a really good thing to do. A critical examination of one Orthodox Christian article on Halloween. A few weeks ago, the Orthodox website, pemptusia.gr, published an article titled Halloween, the Modern Version of Ancient Celtic Paganism. The article is in Greek, translated in English below. All endnotes numbered in this article are found in the original article and was published in the Ecclesiastical Tri-Monthly Periodical, which is in Greek, so I can't read that. With the rise in popularity of Halloween in Greece and all over the world for that matter, the author sought to set the record straight on what exactly Halloween is and what its origins are. Unfortunately, the author did a terrible job and presented a lot of misleading information. This is especially unfortunate that is published in Orthodox Christian periodicals and is now online on an otherwise very good and beneficial website associated with the Vatopedi Monastery on Mount Athos. Below, I will offer a brief critical examination on this article and set the record straight on where it does not present the truth and falls into common misconceptions. Since what is presented here is often misunderstood by Orthodox Christians, and they are misled by the common misrepresentations presented in this article and others like it, I will make some corrections in red as I translate the article in black. In recent years, there's been a move to introduce into Greek society holidays that come from Western countries and mainly holidays aimed at the youth. One of them is the Halloween celebration originating from the United States of America. According to the custom of the celebration, young children on the 31st of October dress up in costumes of witches, elves, demons, and ghosts, visit houses in order to collect as many sweets as possible, an action known as trick or treat. Farsa I Karasma in Greek. Many associate this particular celebration with the Greek carnival. However, this connection is incorrect. The author wants to present Halloween as a foreign holiday that has come to Greece from America. In this respect, the author is correct. Halloween is celebrated on October 31st in America, is purely an American holiday in its secular form with a past that goes back to the early 20th century. Though the elements that have come to form Halloween were also developed in the 19th century, these developments took place within American culture and are often out of place when transferred to other countries out of context. As for Halloween costumes, they can pretty much be anything, and certainly not limited to monsters, nor are they limited to something that is meant to invoke fear. Trick-or-treating is an American custom that began in the 30s during the time of the Great Depression. To prevent gangs of youth from causing vandalism on Halloween, which was rampant at that time, and focus their attention on receiving a treat of goodwill from neighbors in exchange for them not ruining their property. It is true that the Greek carnival and Halloween are very different, but they are also very similar, such as the custom of wearing costumes. The Greek carnival takes place during Meat Fair week before Great Lent, and is more focused on revelry, only for the sake of revelry before the solemn fasting period of Great Lent. While Halloween is customarily not so much about revelry, oh goodness, but it has more of a festive and contemplative character that is closely connected with the Roman Catholic Feast of All Saints, November 1st, and the commemoration of the dead on All Souls Day, November 2nd. Many researchers believe that this festival comes from the Roman festival in honor of the goddess Pomona, who was considered the goddess of fruit and the harvest, while others believe that it comes from the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain or Semyon, which marked the end of summer and celebrated on the 1st of November, a version that is also most likely. The Celts inhabited what is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France. For the Celts, the day of October 31, where they celebrated the Samhain festival, marked the end of the fruit harvest and the beginning of winter. However, this day was believed to have a supernatural character, as it was believed that then the borders of the underworld and the world of the living were abolished, and that the spirits of the dead and spirits of darkness came from the underworld to the earth. The fact that there are researchers who are divided as to its origins proves that there is no clear evidence of any ancient origin for Halloween. The fact of the matter is that there is absolutely no association between Halloween and any pagan celebration, neither of the Romans nor of the Celts. There is no evidence that Halloween goes back even before the 19th century, as far as the folk customs associated with it are concerned, and those customs mainly came from the Scottish, English, French, and Irish Catholics. As a Roman Catholic festival, however, we do know that Pope Gregory IV, 827 through 844, officially declared November 1st the Feast of All Saints. which was primarily focused on the Christian martyrs, transferring it from May 13. This is when the papacy was still in communion with the Orthodox Church. In the year in 998, Saint Odilo, the abbot of the monastery of Cluny in southern France, added a celebration on November 2nd, which was a day of prayer for the souls of the faithful departed. This feast, called All Souls' Day, spread from France to the rest of Europe. Thus, Halloween as a religious feast begins after the 10th century, though the folk customs we associate with Halloween today primarily have their origins in the early 20th century America. We can safely say, therefore, that by celebrating Halloween, you are more unwittingly celebrating the martyrs of early Christianity than the pagan rituals that predate Christianity. As far as Celtic Samhain is concerned, there are no ancient writings that describe what this festival was and what took place during it. The earliest recordings we have about it are from folk tales in the 9th century AD, which cannot be trusted for historical accuracy and is likely influenced by Christian interpretations of ancient pagan celebrations. The spiritual aspects of Halloween, primarily dealing with ghosts and occult games, have their origins in the spiritualist movement of the mid-19th century America, which especially increased in popularity after the Civil War in the late 1860s, when the loved ones of the deceased sought to communicate with their dead husbands and sons that died in the war. Spiritualist games and practices like seances and seeking out mediums and playing with a Ouija board became popular during Halloween parties with adults in the early 20th century America, and were combined with the focus on the spirits of the dead of the Christian Feast of All Souls' Day. Even noted Orthodox Christians toyed with spiritualist games and practices in the 19th and early 20th century, such as Dostoevsky. The ceremonies of the Samhain festival were performed by the priests of the Celts called Druids. The Druids also presided over the sacrifices held for the celebration. Many scholars argue that the sacrifices that were performed were not only animal sacrifices, but also human sacrifices. Human sacrifices were not unknown in the religious worship of the Celts. Information about them is given by Roman authors such as Cicero, Julius Caesar, Suetonius, and Lucian. Pliny the Younger mentions that human sacrifices were also carried out in Britain, despite the fact that human sacrifices were formally prohibited under the emperors Tiberius and Claudius. Tiberius 14 to 16 to 37 AD and Claudius 45 through 54 AD, and by St. Patrick in Ireland. It is not certain that these were actually abolished. The fact that Roman emperors tried to abolish the celebration of Samhain is perhaps connected to the performance of human sacrifices, which the emperors did not accept as a way of worshiping deities. It is known that the Romans were tolerant of the worship of the local deities of the peoples included in their empire, but it seems that human sacrifices exceeded the limits of their tolerance. Nothing in this paragraph is verifiable by evidence and should not be reflective of real ancient Celtic practices. It is true that the Romans reported on the British and Celts performing human sacrifice, but these reports were not the result of something they witnessed, as they had never witnessed those lands, nor do they quote anyone who did. Instead, they were part of war propaganda issued by the Roman authors and leaders in order to rile up support for the campaigns of the Romans against their enemies to the north. Propaganda during times of war against enemies is still done today and should not be trusted without verification. There is no historical or archaeological evidence that Samhain is associated with human sacrifice. This is a fairly modern theory with no real basis. Even the belief that St. Patrick abolished human sacrifices has no real historical basis and more a part of a legend, like abolishing snakes from Ireland or the theology of the three-leafed clover. After the spread of Christianity, the celebration of Samhain took on a Christian character and was associated with a celebration of All Saints, which was celebrated on May 13, but was moved to November 1st to eliminate its pagan character. From the Feast of All Saints, the Feast of Samhain received the current name of Halloween, i.e. All Hallows Eve. Today, according to Halloween fans, it is a celebration of joy and disguises with merry parades and treats for children and adults. There is no evidence the festival of Samhain was transformed to All Saints' Day. Pope Boniface IV, 550 through 615, consecrated the Pantheon in Rome, a pagan temple for all Roman gods, into the Church of St. Mary and the Martyrs in May of 609 or 610. This is how All Saints' Day came to be celebrated in the West on May 13. Pope Gregory III, 731 through 741, dedicated an oratory in the original St. Peter's Basilica in honor of the All Saints on November 1st, and this date then became the official date for the celebration of the Feast of All Saints in Rome. St. Bede in 735 recorded the celebration of All Saints' Day on November 1st in England, and such a celebration also existed in Salzburg, Austria. Otto of Vienna, 875, recounted how Pope Gregory IV asked King Louis the Pious, 778 through 840, to proclaim November 1st as All Saints' Day throughout the Frankish Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, according to an early church historian, John Beleth. In the year 1165, Pope Gregory IV, 827-844, officially declared November 1st the Feast of All Saints, transferring it from May 13. However, Sicard of Cremona, 1215, recorded that Pope Gregory VII, 1073 through 1085, finally suppressed May 13 and mandated November 1st as the date to celebrate the Feast of All Saints. In all, we find the Church establishing a liturgical feast day in honor of the saints independent of any pagan influence. Despite what supporters of the holiday say, Halloween has never ceased to be associated with a supernatural activity and magic, and despite its ostensibly Christian character today, it has never really shed its pagan roots. Satanist Anton LaVey, in his Satanic Book, ranks Halloween as one of the two most important holidays in the Satanic calendar. While the holiday is included in the calendar followed by witches, Wicca, the celebration is held today both by Satanists and witches in honor of Mother Earth, but also modern pagans. The Satanic Bible is a collection of essays, observations, and rituals published by Anton LaVey in 1969. The Satanism founded by Anton LaVey does not believe in the supernatural God or Satan. Instead, it is an existential philosophy based on atheism, which LaVey called Satanism, in order to offend fundamentalist Christians, which he was raised as and turned away from when he would continuously see the hypocrisy of Christians displayed before his eyes. As a mockery to Christianity, he established a black mass, which is nothing but a mockery of the Catholic Mass. Should we then consider the liturgy satanic? He also established standard American holidays as satanic holidays, among them Halloween, because at the time it was being called by fundamentalist Christians a satanic and pagan holiday, and therefore LaVey adopted it for this reason alone. Satanists therefore hijacked Halloween away from Christians because of a fundamentalist Christian belief that it is pagan and satanic. Wicca was developed in England during the first half of the 20th century and was introduced to the public in 1954 by Gerald Gardner, a retired British civil servant. Wicca draws upon a diverse set of ancient pagan and 20th century Hermetic motifs for its theological structure and ritual practices. There is no association between Wicca and ancient paganism, but it is an interpretation of ancient paganism for today's world. And since Halloween is commonly associated with paganism by fundamentalist Christians, Wiccans adopted this as well. Wiccans therefore hijacked Halloween away from fundamentalist Christians because of a fundamentalist belief that it is pagan with ancient ceremonies. If fundamentalist Christians beginning in the 1960s had never falsely given Halloween pagan and satanic origins and associations, it likely would never have been adopted by modern pagans, Wiccans, and Satanists the way that it has. According to many reports, satanic rituals and animal sacrifices take place during the night of October 31st. It is typical that in the USA, animal welfare organizations stop giving up black cats on the eve of the holiday and until November 2nd for adoption, fearing cruelty to felines, which usually becomes the focus at this time of year. While others ban the adoption of black cats throughout October, according to columnist Rachel Quigley, the animal welfare organization Animal Orphanage reports that many people sacrifice black cats on the day of Halloween. Halloween fans claim that animal sacrifices are a myth, but if that's the case, why do animal welfare organizations ban the adoption of black cats or call on cat owners to take care of their animals during this time? There is extremely little evidence of satanic rituals with animal sacrifices taking place on October 31st. This is mostly due to teenagers dabbling in what they think are satanic rituals and by no means organized by any satanic group. The superstitious mythology of black cats has led to the unfortunate situation where it is thought that cats are sacrificed at this time of year in satanic rituals. This is not true. The animal shelter policy has been influenced by a widespread belief that satanic cat sacrificing rituals at Halloween is beyond dispute. The issue here is whether such activity is really as prevalent as the belief in it is. The evidence seems to be more anecdotal than anything. Dr. Leslie Sinclair, a veteran who was a director of companion animal care for the Humane Society of the United States, has said that tales of widespread animal torture on Halloween might be more legend than real. She said that society officials employed a clipping service to survey news accounts of feline carnage surrounding Halloween 1996 and found nothing. Michael F. Ryan, an investigator with the Baltimore State Attorney's Office who has advised police departments on the practices of devil worshippers, said no one should fear that black cats are about to be singled out for satanic sacrifice. It's no more significant than a white dog, a brown dog, or a polka-dotted kangaroo, he said. The more attention people give to this myth, it just helps it to ride along on a wave that takes on a life of its own. It's just not there. Snopes also investigated this claim and found the following. Although no law enforcement agency or animal protection group we contacted could provide any statistics about Halloween-related animal killings or abuse, the consensus is that although incidents of animal abuse may rise slightly around Halloween, it's a year-round problem, and it has far more to do with poorly behaved kids than with organized satanic cults. Far too often, the animals are tortured and sacrificed during pseudo-satanic-based rituals, but not the real religious satanic groups. Lillian Dubois, Tesserno, president and executive director of Arizona Petline, stressed. They don't sacrifice cats and dogs. It's just the idiot juveniles who are responsible, who don't know what they're doing. Kim Hicks, spokesperson for the Arizona Humane Society, agreed that it's not religious groups such as the Wiccans that are stealing and killing animals. Wiccans are actually anti-cruelty to animals, a group who hold animals in a higher regard than they do humans, she said. I think it's more like the people who dabble in the occult who are dangerous, and my guess is would be it's troubled teenagers. Do satanic rites really pose a threat to cats at Halloween, or is it largely a self-perpetuating Halloween myth? There is no evidence to justify this claim. Certainly, though, shelters are being extra careful with feline adoptions just before Halloween to prevent the renting of cats for decorative purposes is a prudent precaution. Renting a cat for Halloween only to discard the cat after is a cruel practice. If Halloween policies at pet adoption centers help dissuade those who might inflict harm on adopted pets, so much the better. But anecdotal stories should be taken with a grain of salt at the best. Regarding the argument that Halloween celebration is today only a celebration of merriment sung in disguises and has lost a lot of its old pagan character, what about the fact that it is celebrated by Satanists, but also by witches, which even on their websites give instructions on how to celebrate building an altar, decorating the altar with skulls, bones, and fruits? Satanists and Wiccans also say that everything associated with Christians, including the date of Christmas itself, has pagan origins. They say the same about Easter. If Christians will allow Satanists and Wiccans to control every narrative they wish to control, then the truth will never be established and falsehood will perpetuate. This is a defeatist attitude that is more ruled by fear than anything else. Halloween does not require one to practice satanic or Wiccan rituals. Halloween can be whatever one wishes it to be. The celebration of Halloween, as it's celebrated today in several countries of the Western world, is not as innocent as its devotees try to prove. Halloween highlights pagan views about the world and the relationship of spirits with it, and is an attempt to familiarize young children with the magical element. The celebration gives the impression to its followers that it is possible to communicate with spirits of the underworld, while it can be an opportunity for joining with groups of witches who want to deal particularly with it. Again, the author, believing that modern Satanists and Wiccans have anything to do with ancient pagans, which they don't, also believes they are inherited ancient practices for Halloween, which they didn't. Anything these groups do associated with Halloween originated within the lifetime of your parents and grandparents. You don't have to believe what an atheist or Satanist or pagan or Wiccan believes in order to celebrate Halloween. Most horror stories, for example, have more of a Christian element than a pagan element. Evil is rarely celebrated even on Halloween, and when it is celebrated, it is done usually within the confines of how certain individuals choose to do so, and is in no way a mandatory element of Halloween. As with all things, a Christian should follow their conscience and common sense on Halloween, just as they do every other day of the year without compromising their beliefs. For the above reasons, it would be good for Christians to be particularly careful with their participation or the participation of their children in this celebration, which in recent years has been attempted to be reintroduced into primary education, bearing in mind that Halloween is a modern version of ancient Celtic paganism, which of course is incompatible with the Orthodox Christian faith. It is agreeable that care should be taken on Halloween by Christians regarding how they participate in it, but it is certainly not pagan celebration they are participating in unless they choose to do so. No is incompatible with the Orthodox Christian faith unless they choose to make it be so. Halloween and horror in general is not a celebration of evil or darkness, but a mockery of irrational fears that were bred by superstitions and myths. Yet we live in a strange, mysterious world, and death is a reality. And this is not something we should run from, but embrace it for what it is. It is only in the darkness where light shines brightest. Sin and evil in the tales of Halloween are usually not celebrated, but instead they are objects of judgment and condemnation, and certainly always ugly and undesirable. The scariest part of Halloween I find to be the fundamentalist Christians decrying Halloween and those who choose to participate in it as evil based on false misconceptions. Halloween may not be for everyone, just like Christmas shopping and eating on Easter lamb or Thanksgiving turkey may not be for everyone, but personal taste should not be viewed as objective values that are to be imposed on all. When examining the truth about Halloween, Christians will find that there is little in it that is actually inappropriate, and whatever may be inappropriate is not mandatory to its celebration. This goes for most things living in a secular society. And my take on it, since Halloween isn't a celebration for Christians, I don't celebrate it. I'm not into it. I can see the author's point on this article, and this is from one Orthodox Christian's perspective. This isn't the church. This isn't the church's perspective on this. So I'm not celebrating Halloween, and I'm not going to miss it. I really don't like it. My take on it is just don't celebrate Halloween. It's not a needful or Christian holiday. stay home and read the Bible. But I think remembering death is a very important thing. And I think sometimes people should take their children to the cemeteries and teach their children about death and let them know that someday they're going to die. And that's why it's so important to do good and to not waste your time in this life, but to do good works and to help others. It seems like everything in America is being commercialized. All our holidays are being turned from Christian into some kind of consumerist, materialist holiday where they just want you to consume and sell and buy. I think I'm going to read some more for us a little bit later. I'm going to take a break. I've been reading Akathist in between this stream and the last one for someone who's been sick, reading them with someone. So I need to look up a few more prayers and find a few more things. And this article on Halloween is from Daimonologia. Daimonologia, a critical examination of Halloween. It's Daimonologia, Daimonologia. It's just another website for Orthodox Christians, but this one isn't really a part of any church or monastery. So take the articles you read on it with a grain of salt. I love all of you all so much, and God loves you more than I can ever express. Make sure that you talk to God tonight, because we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know when our last day is. Forgive all your brothers and sisters and pray for them. I love you all, and I'll see you on the next one. God bless.